Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey,
How are we doing?
I've got a space background. I'm going to change that.
Oh my god, I love Ryan's background. Brilliant.
That's just from my friends.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah, good.
Good. Good, good. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. This is Amanda from LDC.
Hi.
Hey,
Amanda,
lovely to see you.
our wonderful panelists as well. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to reschedule and joining online. I haven't even met some of you. I haven't met really in person Emma or Zach, but thank you so much for joining. And after all of this is over, we should definitely go for a celebratory drink. Amazing. So everyone,
Thank you so much. Like, super strange for everyone, but it's quite amazing that we can do this. So yeah, thank you for being so adapting.
yeah, awesome. So just a note from Trish. She actually has a lecture that finishes at 1:15, so she'll join probably around 7:30. I'm gonna announce that before we start, but we can make a start and she will join after. Maybe just something for you, Amanda, to look out for, because she will be joining a little later after we start. Yeah. And then would you start with the introduction of how we usually do it in stores?
Yeah, so it will run pretty much. Yeah, it will run pretty much as normal. I'll do a quick intro to why we're here and introduce you, and then yeah, hand over, all yours. What we're doing though is monitoring. So to start with, I'll say if anyone has any questions, then to just type them in the chat box. Obviously everyone will be muted. So I can read those out towards the end if you want to take questions at the end.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great.
And maybe my connection today has been pretty stable, but in case anything happens, Amanda, I might just share the questions with you too. So if I drop out for whatever reason,
jump in.
Yeah, I can jump in and lead the discussion.
Right.
Send that to you.
So full disclosure on my part, my daughter, so I'm a single parent, my daughter's in the room, so I've got her on the baby cam, it's totally fine. But if I duck off at any point, that's why, but she should be totally fine.
Oh,
no worries.
Amazing. Okay.
So how's everyone doing?
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's been a pretty hectic time.
Yeah.
Everyone in London?
You what?
Is everyone in London? Or where's everyone?
Yeah, I am.
I am too.
Just outside. I'm sort of Watford, so just north. Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, in London. Well, yeah, just
Nice.
Yeah, it's been so weird, especially when it's starting to get brighter and warmer. I think people just don't really want to stay at home. I'm close to Finsbury Park, and there is an official van that just goes around Finsbury Park and just blasts. You should only be here for exercise. If you're not here, please go. If that's not why you're here, please go home. And it is on repeat. It is so annoying to the point that it actually makes you want to go home. So bad. Other than that, okay.
Christina, I've got your question open, so
amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. How was everyone with the questions? You guys had a chance to have a look through them? How do they all seem?
Yeah. Yep. Good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. Amazing.
How much of an intro do you want us to give? Just kind of very top line. I was just going to do very quick. What do you want sort of to go into?
Yeah, I think a little bit about who you are, what you do, why. I mean, a little bit about your experience and background, and I guess how it relates to the topic. So, you know, for Ryan, for Zach, for Trish, it will be more around the types of products that they're creating, I guess. And if you have anything else to add, of course, like please feel free to do so. And then Emma, I'd love your kind of background to also touch a bit more on the communications business side, because we're going to talk about that anyway. But I think it would be nice to give an idea of everyone who's joining about the background and the different perspectives that they're going to get. So yeah, that would be awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I love your jumper, by the way. It's so bright and fun.
Thank you. It's actually like a dress, but it's just so nice.
Cool, love
Very
it.
comfy.
Oh, so nice. Okay. Okay, and this is recorded, Amanda, right?
Yes, so I'm recording it. I'm hoping my connection is stable. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But if anyone, there could also be a slight lag, I think. So just
yeah,
pray that this will work.
I think so. Yeah, but
we haven't had any problems so far, so
yeah,
Nice.
we're all good. I did hear from a couple of people that they would be kind of working late, not sure if they would join, so a few people have asked for the recording, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. And we're gonna do a follow-up article anyway after, so that's all good.
Have you
Amanda,
done many Zoom calls, like panel talk calls?
I've joined quite a few, but I've not done one that I'm hosting, so this is going to be a first.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's the same. I'd say I've joined a few. I've not been on a panel in one yet. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I think everyone is quite sympathetic with regards to all of this and what's happening now, and they're just appreciative of that, the fact that anything is happening, you know, events are still going ahead in a digital format, and everyone appreciates that everyone's at home, so your connection might not be stable and might have technical difficulties and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amanda, at the end, shall we say that we have another event coming up for the June one?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I still need to.
Do you want to say a few words about it?
Sorry?
Do you want to say a few words about it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna email you about it, but I was just literally confirming speakers until this point. But I wanted to do it on just retail evolution a little bit more, both from digital and physical. So we've secured the founder of By Rotation, Rita. Yeah, she. So yeah. And a seller on Depop who only focuses on sustainable fashion. So we've got rental, resale, and I thought it would be interesting to have either Alice or maybe Rebecca from your end, just to have something on the physical side and how physical is evolving as well. I think that would be quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Awesome. Have you guys had any plans for the next couple of months that have been completely cancelled, or travels?
Yeah, fashion week.
So many.
So many. Oh, Ryan.
All of them.
No, I mean it's okay. We have to adapt.
Yeah.
But we had lots of trips and stuff planned, which have had to be paused for, I guess, a year.
Oh my God.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah, because Fashion Week now is going to be digital, isn't it? They've merged it. Menswear and women's wear, they've merged it and it's going to be digital. Quite interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been stalking the feeds of the fellow panelists.
Oh, yeah, do your research.
I know, exactly. You're managing to create exceptional content in isolation, which is amazing.
Yeah, I have access to all my suits, so
yeah. So good.
Nice.
And yeah, Ryan, I've been looking at your business. It's incredible. My daughter has a genetic condition, so I'm constantly on the lookout for kind of adaptive wear that is sort of like easy and comfortable for her to be in. And she's super long and really
cool.
thin. So like looking
Yeah.
at your sort of clothes that, you know, grow and all that sort of sustainable stuff has been really fascinating. I wanted to pick up with you afterwards, actually, just on a couple of bits.
Yeah, that's it.
They sort of like they'd
I've
fit.
got a sample here.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yay! Oh my God, awesome. Awesome. Yes.
No, it's really interesting. I've been a bit obsessed.
I've had a number of really good friends who recently gave birth or are expecting, and I cannot wait to get them a petit plat item. But
really?
I have to wait for a bit. I have to wait until they get to that point where I can actually get it to them.
Yes.
I've been telling them about
cool.
when they're mind blown always.
Yeah, they're very different. They're very polarizing as well. So some people really hate them, and some people really like them.
Why would you hate them?
No, I mean, taste, right? It's not. It's a very different design. So I think.
I guess, yeah.
You have to be willing to take that step and that jump.
Yeah. Oh,
I think it beats a pair of pink leggings.
Right?
Pink leggings. Yeah, I'm into it.
Awesome.
Amazing. So good. Zach, were you meant to participate in Men's Fashion Week in June?
In our 14th season, I think.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we're sort of rejigging and seeing what to do next. I think this gives everyone a break to kind of just step back and see where the next stage of our business can take us. Really, I think it's come at a good time. I think we'll have to wait and see what the digital platform on the VFC will look like. I attended a talk just earlier with Caroline Rush and Dylan Jones, and they gave a brief overview of what it'd be like. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out, really. But it makes me excited to create again because it's something new and exciting. Working with AI or VR or something could be interesting to bring to consumers, I think.
Yeah, definitely. One of the clients that I manage in the agency I'm at, they're like a VR portal, but for music. And they've just said in the last few weeks, since the lockdown, the usage and downloads have just exploded. It's been through the roof because people just want entertainment at home when they can get it. And now everyone, like all the festivals and all the fun stuff is for the rest of the summer pretty much is cancelled. So they have seen an explosion in people interested in that type of technology and that type of experience as well. Yeah, so fun.
Yeah, there are a couple of industries that are really booming in this.
What have you seen, Ryan? Is it like digital? I've seen a lot of digital clothing stuff, but not sure how many like what portion of people actually purchase digital clothing, if we talk about that?
Yeah. Well, within fashion, it's difficult to say at this point, I think. I think like PPE is going to be a pretty big thing going forward. But I was just referring to other industries like pretty much digital services. So all of this co-working software and things like that, they're just absolutely booming. Gusto, do you know Gusto, the food delivery service? Yeah, they just raised £41 million.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, as a fundraise. So because they're just oversubscribed, and like it's a great, like this is the perfect scenario for an idea like that to thrive. So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. So
lots of interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, all of the things around live streaming as well, like live stream commerce and social commerce, all that I think we've seen so much in the last few weeks, like digital platforms and channels. I mean, even like the fitness studios now, every single fitness studio is streaming their workouts on Instagram or through Zoom. So interesting to see how many people join. I think it's much difficult to monetize, because if it's there for free, people just want to tune in to the live stream and that's it. But it will be interesting to see, because you have that with Peloton at the start, you know, the bike, and then now it's just completely gone to the masses. It's really cool to follow that explosion of
so Peloton's like where you can do spinning classes at your home, basically.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Oh, what's the first thing you would do after lockdown?
Haircut. No, I think I'm gonna have to find out how to cut my hair before then.
I've been doing mine. It's terrible. So no one look at my sideburns.
What? No, your hair looks so good.
No, I've been amazing. And also I cut the back. I just basically looked in a mirror like this and just went like that. I mean,
nice.
I won't turn round or go sideways.
Oh. Love it.
I don't know. I just kind of want to do everything. I just want to see some other people. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
So Christina, I'm just thinking about, I'm just checking my emails to make sure no one's struggling with the Zoom link, because we've had issues with that before. But for the sake of the people that can't join tonight, who've asked for the recording, it could be that, do you want to wait till 1:15 and then record it as a video and we can send it to everyone after the event? And people can join. I know that I've heard a lot of people are completely snowed under and busy. So it could be that this is just kind of like an on-demand event and podcast, which it will be used for afterwards. But if everyone's happy with that, just so that we can make sure that we maximize the time that we've got everyone together for.
Yeah. Let me just, I mean, if you guys want to get a drink or anything, and then we can maybe start. I don't know if anyone wants to, but Amanda, I'm ready whenever you are.
Did you want to wait for Trisha, or?
She's gonna join probably at 1:30, so I think let's just kick off if you guys are ready.
Great, cool. And we'll make it a smashing event podcast, which will be available to absolutely everyone after this. So the joys of technology. We are not surrounded by the physical anymore. There could be people in Russia watching this eventually. Okay.
You know when I invite people to these events, because the Interlaced following is not just UK based. It's a lot of like US and around the world as well. And there's so many, they say, oh, will this be live streamed or will this be recorded? And like they can't join, but I think like now it's going to be a good opportunity to make them feel more included in everything that we're doing.
It definitely is. I think in a way this has kind of opened up a number of opportunities. So so I'll just do a little quick intro and then hand over to you.
Awesome. Great.
Okay. So this is our first LDC Interlaced event of the year, first of many, and a very exciting topic of discussion tonight. Very pleased to be joined here by some incredible experts and with Christina herself from Interlaced. And yeah, we always enjoy doing these events at LDC. We're all about empowering the community and engaging as many people as we can, and discovering new channels through interesting conversations with so many different kind of experts and idealists. So without further ado, I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Dimitrova, and I run Interlaced. If you've not heard of Interlaced before, we are a media, events, and consultancy platform that focuses on the future of fashion, beauty, and retail through both content online, but also events like this, digital and physical. So today we have an amazing panel who will be discussing the importance of inclusivity and diversity in fashion beauty. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Shall we start with Emma?
Hi, yes, so I'm Emma Gardner. I am a managing partner at an advertising agency called Elvis. I've been there an incredibly long time, which is tributes to the kind of brand and agency that now I have the privilege of running with the team. I sort of started in advertising when I was 18, so which was a very long time ago now, but I would say that that's meant I've grown up in an environment where mass media, popular culture, you know, I've kind of been around that and seen kind of how brands are using those references and trends to market to their consumers. So that's been an interesting journey. And I suppose in the last, however many years now, goodness me, 6 years, because she's 6, when I became a mother in 2014, my daughter was born with a very rare genetic condition. So always having been passionate about inclusivity and diversity, I kind of took that on in a whole new different way in terms of advocating and championing disability in terms of representation, products, and kind of, yeah, I suppose society as a whole. So using my personal life and professional life to try and bring that to the forefront of the things we're doing, both at Elvis and side hustles alike.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. Ryan, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ryan Mariassen, founder of Petitpli, and we create clothes that grow with children. We do this by embedding a structure within the garment that allows it to grow bidirectionally, and it's patent pending. I have a background in aeronautical engineering where I specialized in deployable structures for nanosatellites. Took all of that research, which involved a lot of origami, went to the Royal College of Arts and did design and engineering. Decided to go into the fashion or wearable sector and realized that it was a really terrible industry in the way it operates in many instances, where it's really unethical or very unsustainable, and thought I'd just put my mind to picking a very niche user group, which was children, looking at them as extreme users of wearables or of fashion, and designing for that very niche user group from the ground up. So that's how PTP came about, and now we're a team of 8 people based in London, but we all have multidisciplinary skills and we all bring something else to our product design. to develop further solutions to different challenges within the wearable sector. So be that other user groups which may not be having a great user experience with the garments that are designed for them, for instance.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. And last
Thank
but
you.
not least, Zach.
Hey guys, how are you? My name's Zach Kimmel. I'm a creative director of luxury menswear brand Elsewhere. Based between London and Dubai. We started about 6-7 years ago, just with a bow tie, which we accidentally recreated. And from then we've grown the business from just one single product to a full tailored menswear wardrobe. I'd say our customer base is quite inclusive, diverse, ranging from 6-month-old babies to 90-year-old war veterans to even pets. We have a lot of clients that, you know, want bow ties for dogs or cats, right? So our market is quite of a big range, yeah, that's what our site is.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We also have a final fourth speaker, Trish from Co-Creative, just for the recording. She will be joining a little later, and we'll let her introduce herself when she joins the webinar. But let's kick off. We're here to talk about inclusivity and diversity in fashion and retail. But we've seen that you know, nearly, just to put this in a little bit of a context, near every country around the globe has seen a rise of in the number of the aging population. However, you know, in most industries, especially fashion, are kind of preoccupied with youth. You know, you see lots of young people portrayed in marketing communications for brands, also on models on the runway, you know, and also even the products that brands create. And even the muses where from which creative directors take inspiration from. Why do you think this is still mostly the case, and why do you think youth and being young is still, you know, the holy grail of everything, and this aging population is perhaps not addressed and even ignored in some cases?
Shall I go? I'll go. I don't know, I was thinking about this. I think this is a really interesting question. And I think, speaking from my perspective, I think that there's an aesthetic that's kind of, you know, been a constant. It might be refined or it might be kind of tweaked over time, but ultimately it's never really in the whole been reinvented. And I think about myself being in a sort of a transitional age or generation, whatever, that absolutely buys into wanting to be authentic and love, you know, myself, my body, my, you know, everything, my quirks and twerks, as I call them, but also marries that against the tension of, I suppose, what I've grown up with, seeing as, you know, the perfect aesthetic, or a kind of what's sexy, what's beautiful. And that's always been kind of youth, or, you know, so trying to sort of unlearn the things that I've grown up with. And I wonder whether that plays a part in the people still designing, directing, or whatever. I don't know. I think for the whole, you tend to see the more interesting things coming through at the hands of the brave or the much younger, that are willing to sort of leave a lot of those stereotypes or learned behaviours behind. I don't know, maybe that's just my kind of feeling on it, really.
Awesome.
I think, to add to that, I think a lot of the people within those organizations are typically designing for themselves in a way. And so there needs to be, I guess, for you to design for other people, you either need to force yourself to design for those other people, which is harder than designing for yourself, because you know what you want, so it's much easier. Or you need to bring more diverse people within the organization as part of the design process, so that they can bring what they know best towards designing for themselves. Yeah.
I think generally speaking, marketing and sort of design has always been, there's been an obsession around youthfulness and creativity and what's exciting, and the youth have always been associated with what's cool, right? What's trendy, and they're sort of leading a generation, right? And sort of the consumer would be looking at a brand or a product and being like, oh, I want to be aspirational to be that cool, right? That sort of, not just in fashion or retail, but even across music, say like, for example, hip hop music, where, a rapper coming through would be much more well received than a person that's been around for a long time, even if it's Jay-Z, right? So it's sort of a conditioned way of thinking in terms of how to best market and sell a product. But like Ryan said, the people that are creating these marketing campaigns or designing are usually of that age anyway, so they're designing for themselves. But then you see creatives on, say, like I've certainly noticed on Instagram, quite a few photographers who have dressed up their parents in really cool clothing, and they've been picked up by, say, like Daily Paper or Nike have approached them to dress their parents in like cool clothing. So I think it will come from a more organic place rather than maybe an agency dictating like an old person or someone mature is cool. You see it more in menswear and tailoring, but that's mainly because the market for a tailored suit is geared to someone who has more disposable income. So the marketing campaigns will be a much more mature model, for example.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting when you said you will see something on Instagram, someone dresses their parents or grandparents in really, in a really cool suit or dress or whatever, and they'll be picked up by someone, a big agency or brand. So again, that kind of shows that this is still the exception and not the norm. But people will love it, and people, when they see something like that, they appreciate it and they celebrate it. So which kind of gets me to my next question. What do you think needs to change in order for this to kind of not become the norm, but not to be so, I guess, unexpected and shocking sometimes, both when we talk about a little bit older consumers, but also when you think about plus size fashion, for example, or adaptive fashion, because currently what we're seeing is there are some brands that are doing this and creating these types of lines, but most of the time it's a PR play or one-off activation rather than just continuous investment in that specific sector or subsector or sub-consumer group.
We're gonna go to
whoever wants to start can just raise their hand up, and then we can go from there.
I think generally speaking, in order for a campaign or inclusivity to really resonate with a customer, it needs to come from the ground up. So your culture, your company culture, your moral sort of anchor, and what you are as a brand needs to start within your company at the start, right? So you should have a number of different types of opinions. If you're specifically targeting maybe, say, I don't know, a specific type of person, then those sorts of people need to be in the conversation before you've even started thinking about how you're marketing your product. Because if you're coming at it cold, the sort of ideas won't be natural. And I think people are resonating a lot more with authenticity and realness at the moment, rather than whereas before products would be aspirational. They're moving more towards something that's more real, authentic, and relatable, really.
Yeah, I think people are really in tune with recognizing anomalies in patterns. So like when you see any pattern, if there's like something that's off, you kind of recognize it straight away. And I think that's true in like a picture, but it's also true in like a campaign. So if something feels off and it's not genuine and it feels like it's just following a trend for the sake of it, then it's very easy to spot, and people I think it has a negative effect rather than resonating. It has a negative effect on that, whatever that campaign is, and could actually harm the message of inclusivity as well. If people like misuse it in the same way that sort of greenwashing is a thing, and then people just no longer want to hear anything about it or see anything about it.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's right. And I think that because sadly these things, sort of looking at it from a marketing or you know, an agency perspective, certainly within advertising, you know, diversity, the word diversity is so overused, and it's so kind of like, oh goodness, you know, everyone's talked about it for so long, everyone talks about actions, not words. But for the most part, it still becomes, or it still is, an initiative or a trend that people are trying to tap into. So they'll not think about all of those things, and when they get it wrong or are kind of you know, attacked online or in the press or kind of called out on it, because it is you know, reputationally very harmful if they do get it wrong, it highlights the massive issues that are much more business led, in that there aren't diverse workforces in the first place, that maybe they haven't stopped to think along the way, whether it was intentional or passive, that they should seek advice if that's the case. So I think you have a lot of brands that will get it right up here. You get a lot of ones that try and then get it really wrong and then run away from it and never, you know, never want to do anything ever again. And then you've got this whole grey area of people going, I'm a bit too scared to do it because look what happened to Gillette, or H&M got that really wrong, so I'm definitely not going to do that. And I think they're sort of paralysed by that fear, but also really blissfully ignorant to the fact that their own workforces are completely you know, non-diverse and not very inclusive. So I think certainly the advertising industry pays a lot of lip service to it, but I do think that where you might have brands that don't necessarily or haven't established that diversity or that kind of cultural representation at a business level, I think they should still start with representation, because that reaches so many people. They should be doing it alongside. So seek that advice, change your business, you know, seek consultancy, hire freelancers, you know, that can help you with that in the short term. Otherwise you'll just sort of slip into that, well, we can't change it right now, so we won't change it, sort of grey middle area, which I think is just, you know, quite irritating. But yeah, I think it definitely highlights where people can get it very wrong for all of those reasons.
Yeah, I think that's also so true. What you said, Emma, about a lot of brands being scared to tap into that, to try to do something about it, because they've seen what, you know, what H&M has done and it has backfired, or other, you know, other brands in the industry. So on that note, do you think that you know, brands should be partnering with other organizations or experts beyond just bringing more people into their workforce, or how they should be approaching it if they want to do something, but they really don't know how, and they've realized they don't have the expertise to do that.
So for me, I think honesty is the best policy, right? I think being completely upfront about it, and interestingly, we're seeing now that where sort of brand trends and sort of consumer trends, whereas we've heard a lot about, you know, consumers wanting purpose-driven marketing, purpose-led brand relationships, that's kind of changing to honesty, which I think it's moving into that realm, which is really great, I think, because it gives you license to say, as H&M actually did, they got, you know, the campaign they ran, it was 2018, believe it or not, that they ran the campaign that they, you know, were rightly called out on. But they did completely own up to it. They didn't fudge it, you know, eventually. It took them a little bit of time, probably just stunned into it. But they completely owned up to it. They said, this is what we're going to do. Whether anyone's held them accountable for actually doing those things, who knows? Maybe that should be part of the, you know, the solution moving forwards. But I think you have to, if you get it wrong, you have to hold your hands up and then kind of do better immediately. Don't stop. But also, I think, be afraid to fail. Like, everyone's going to have an opinion, whether you've got it right or not. Some people might think that your ad that's really authentic still sucks. Like, a lot of it is subjective. But you have to be responsible where you're representing, you know, more sensitive minorities or things that haven't necessarily been portrayed before. So I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a balance, and I would say just being completely honest about where you are, whether you're in an agency, whether you're a business or a brand on that journey, because no one's just going to pop up and go, we're incredibly sustainable, diverse, incredible, all in one go. Like, everyone's trying to get somewhere, and at Elvis we've done that by talking to our clients about it, kind of helping them understand where they are on that journey, what's appropriate, but also unpacking things in toolkits for them around language and where they can find out stuff if they don't know, and stuff like that. So I think just trying to be open and creating a space where people can ask questions that they might be fearful of as well is a really good start.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally agree with Emma. And I also think, in addition to honesty, like, yeah, being honest with yourself and not necessarily like having to feel forced to do a type of campaign or follow a type of trend that doesn't necessarily fit what you do.
Yeah.
And just sticking to really what you're good at and pushing that agenda as much as you can, I think is also speaks to that.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think a good example that comes to mind is Gucci. So maybe you guys, I think was last year, maybe you've seen the jumper that they did that was like a baklava jumper, and it got a lot of backlash because it was quite inappropriate. They didn't realize at the time, but immediately after, they not just apologized and own up to it, but actually announced that they will be creating a diversity council within Gucci to make sure that that just doesn't happen again. So it's not just like owning and apologizing for it, but also doing something that will prevent that happening again, which I think was quite good, and people loved that, actually. So my next question is a bit more, because we talked about purposeful brands and honest brands. We've seen that even when we talk about sustainability or inclusivity in this case, there are people that people increasingly vote with their wallets, and they buy brands that they not just like with regards to the products that they're creating, but also what they stand for, their values and how they operate as businesses, whether it is directly impacting them or not. So when it comes to inclusivity, do you think we are on that journey of seeing people expecting brands to have diverse ranges, adaptive clothing, and products and services that fit those needs, even though they might not be the direct consumer that will be using those products and services? Do you think we're going to see that anytime soon?
That's a tough one. I think it's difficult to predict how brands will react, even today, right? During this pandemic, I think a lot of brands are taking a step back. They're allowed to, sort of reconvene and see where their brand can go, right? I think someone like, say, Fenty did really well in, serving a market. There was also a couple other makeup brands that did it before them, but on that level, it just showed there was a need for, inclusivity across the board. I think, like I said previously, and Ryan both said, an honesty in where your brand lies, right? I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, right? You're not going to become a product where you're going to cater to everyone, right? But if you do something, then do it well and have people on board, and an honest representation of the world we live in, right? It's a mixture of cultures and traditions and heritages, and that should be reflected in your not just your product, but I suppose more specifically your marketing, right? It should be honest and a place of sincerity, because I think people are relating more to authenticity and honesty as opposed to aspirational luxury, right?
Yeah.
I'd say where it's relevant as well. So it's very difficult for brands to be all things to all people, but if you look at some of the some of the brands that I think have done great things and I will talk specifically about disability here, because I feel like when we talk about inclusion and diversity, disability sort of feels quite separate still, and it's very sort of underrepresented just in general in conversations and you know, within the whole marketing or media representation debate. But I would say Tommy Hilfiger doing adaptive wear is, you know, I was so suspicious in the beginning about this is, you know, smells like PR stunt to me. Having a daughter that will always you know, be in some kind of pad or nappy or whatever based on her condition, having clothing that poppers or zips rather than pulls, or, you know, things that are very practical, that have been developed by a brand that are now becoming very mainstream. And, you know, they've done really well with it. I think they launched it in 2016, and this year they're launching in Asia and Europe. As a whole, Tommy Hilfiger since 2015 has done really well commercially. It's kind of changed its focus. I don't know whether the CEO, the new CEO is kind of has been responsible for all of it, but even kind of their sustainable reused denim range, things like that. So the adaptive wear probably isn't wholly responsible for their financial success, but what they're doing is spotting I suppose a gap in the market for personal reasons or for financial reasons, who knows, but by focusing on technology and sustainability, that they've kind of carved out a direction that's definitely been fueled by the, you know, resurgence of 90s nostalgia, which is great in terms of their sort of normal fashion line. But I think that that's been a really smart move. So people that are taking the risk to, and it will be seen as a risk by many brands, to cater for a specific audience like disabled people, which, you know, has a spending power of 249 billion in the UK, you know, that's a smart move. So I don't think we can predict what brands are going to do what, but I do think that certainly more should be thinking about what's relevant for them, rather than just trying to be, you know, be more strategic about it, and be ruthless about it if you want. Because for me, even if you're chasing the cash, it still means my kid's going to have more of a choice of what I can put her in. Maybe that's not so clinical, or, you know, sort of the stuff that exists medical. I'd love to be able to, you know, dress her in things that are fit for purpose, but also celebrate her personality and her style. So I think that is something I would say in terms of what brands may or should be developing. They might follow suit in that respect.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, people should be addressing needs of humanity as a whole, and I think it's a lot more fulfilling when you can have a positive impact with the skills and equipment that you have, if you can use that for like positive good, for a business and for people. And I think if you create things that people need, you're less susceptible to changes in trends and things like this, because you're no longer a luxury in a way. So if people rely on your product, I think that's a positive thing if you're actually designing a product fit for purpose for those people.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of addressing human needs, Ryan, you create clothes that grow, which is amazing. Could you tell us maybe why, like, how did you get into adaptive materials? Why do you think they will become increasingly popular based on your success and feedback of, you know, not just consumers, but also brands, accelerators? You guys have been literally everywhere and you won so many awards, and it's been amazing to see. So, and beyond kids wear, do you think we'll see that kind of being adopted from other sectors and for other types of clothing as well?
Yeah, so well, to answer the second part of the question, we're already looking at maternity wear because it's a really easy application of a technology that's already existing.
Awesome.
And we are looking at things like sportswear, obviously, because it makes sense because the amount of agility and motion. But then we're looking at the elderly and mobility wear and how we can use the sort of fundamental design principles that we have within the team to address further needs and challenges that are faced by others who have dexterity issues or things like that, where we can put our heads together. We're a super multidisciplinary team, as I mentioned. So we have my background, which is aeronautical engineering. We have neuroscience and sociology, product design, fashion design, and a couple of others. And when we all come from different angles, then we can really build a high resolution image of what challenges are being faced. And the more you understand the challenge you're designing for, the better you can design a solution for that. So in terms of, do I prophesize adaptive clothing being a thing? I don't know, but I think, again, it's just about addressing the needs of people, individuals, and the needs of humanity as a whole. And I think addressing the needs of humanity as a whole, one of the fundamental things to doing that is addressing things like sustainability issues, being responsible in your design, because if you should think about answering an individual's needs, but not at the sort of cost of the world. That's like one sort of fundamental thing that we have in Petit Clou. And I think that, I mean, our approach, the reason why Petit Clou exists in the first place was just identifying that clothes for children were just not designed for them. They were just miniaturized adult clothes. And I think that's almost a lazy way to go about it. And again, it's taking that idea of understanding the user that you're designing for it. And it's even harder with kids because they can't really talk to you and tell you what's wrong with their clothes or anything. So it's really understanding what that need was, and just trying to address it however which way we could. So that was really the reason why. And you know, when you're trying to fix a problem, you just use whatever tools you have at your disposal. And my background was in origami and engineering, so it was in a way almost obvious that I would take that step. Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait to see. When is the other the new line coming out, maternity?
Maternity, well, we were beta testing them just before we've all had to start working from home, so that's taken a slight pause, but it should be soon.
Amazing. Stay tuned. Yeah. Stay tuned. And Zach, you also mentioned that you obviously include a lot of diverse people in your shows, and when it comes to customers, it could be anyone really from 9 to 90. So since launching, you made a name for yourself in Dubai and the UK. So is diversity something that you consider when you design, and is it something that you also want to spotlight with Velsoir and beyond?
Yeah, I think it's a bit different from where we started, because we started with a single product, which was a bow tie, and most of our pieces are handmade in London, bespoke or made to measure. So we're really only servicing one person at a time, rather than create a ready-to-wear range and sit on it and wait for it to be sold. So I suppose we weren't, with bow ties, we're not really trend-driven or dictated to by the fashion industry as a whole, right? We're creating products that ultimately I feel represent me and my brothers and us as a brand. So we've come from a different sort of angle, because we've started off with just one product, which is not definitive in its nature, right? I suppose organically, over the course of sort of 6-7 years, when we showed at London Fashion Week Men's, and we've created garments, I suppose that sort of bespoke nature followed, because we were creating products for every single type of person. So why create a collection, or even have models that all look exactly the same? To me personally, I find that a bit boring, a bit redundant. Like you said, we create products for a lot of different types of people, and I interact with them every day. So I thought that's the best way to display our collection on the different types of people that can wear the brand, really. and that goes from showing in Dubai to London to, say, Lebanon. It's the same across all markets.
Amazing. That's great to hear. And I've just been informed by Amanda that we also have Trish who's joined us.
Hey.
Hi, Trish. So nice to have you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Sorry, I lecture as well, so I had to basically juggle, but it's nice because you can do it all from one place. So I went from my virtual classroom to my virtual panel, which is very fun.
Amazing.
But no, sorry for being a little bit late.
That's all right. For everyone who will be watching, could you tell us a little bit about you and co-creatives as well, a little bit of background?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of start off, I guess, I was, the brand is very personal. So the best way to kind of describe it is I was bullied growing up for the way that I used to look. I was really struggling to kind of gain confidence, and makeup was one of those things that actually made me feel like a person again. And makeup was the crutch for me that made me kind of do everyday things. It let me go to school. It let me speak in public. It let me face all kinds of demons, to be honest, and gave me confidence to be able to communicate like I do today. And even though I compare it to looking a little bit like putting makeup on a donkey, the donkey doesn't look any different, but it sure feels like $1 million. And that's kind of why I decided to establish Cole Creatives. The whole function of our company is to be able to empower people with the power of makeup through the series of free workshops. So we're a nonprofit where we run free workshops for a variety of different communities, which have slowly kind of grown over time. It started off with the transgender community and cancer care communities, and now we've opened it up to the motor disabilities and visual impairments communities, using makeup as a tool of empowerment. So what we do is we run free workshops virtually and in person in 30 different countries around the world, typically on a Wednesday evening, where we teach people how to use makeup as a tool to make themselves feel as closely to what they want to be. So it could be for transitioning people or non-binary people, looking more gender neutral, looking more feminine, looking more masculine. It could even be with people that have alopecia or cancer care and chemotherapy loss, recreating brows, recreating lashes. And with people with other disabilities and impairments, it could just be learning how to create a look with someone who's patient enough to dedicate time to help you teach you what you want to be able to achieve. But obviously, no nonprofit is sustainable without a product or some kind of revenue stream. And so we have a range of makeup brushes that are designed to work for everybody. So this is an inclusive element, and it solely drives the fundraising for the free workshops. Our makeup brushes are inclusive in the sense that they're designed for you and me, as well as someone that may have any kind of disability, particularly motor disabilities. These range from diseases and disabilities. So it could be Dupuytren's, arthritis, Parkinson's, MS, ALS, and we tested it with a wide variety of communities in order to actually help them have accessibility holistically to the brushes. So they stand, they're flexible, and they're designed to make creating looks that are Instagram famous or popular easier. They're also sustainable. So we make them out of recycled plastic. The plastic that we collect is actually plastic waste. So we use bottles, trash, things that people don't want anymore, and convert that into our product, including the packaging, which is all made out of recycled material too. So in a nutshell, that is what Cole Creatives is, an inclusive beauty tools brand that hopes to help people empower themselves with the power of makeup.
Amazing. Such a great story, and such a great, just everything that you're doing is so considered. And my question to you is, what, since you've started Cole Creatives, what has the feedback been, not just from both from the people that you empower through your workshops, but also through the general public, people like you and me who would want to maybe buy that, and still be aware of your mission and what you stand for?
I think the main thing that we kind of focus on is, if we didn't tell you that this product was an inclusive product, and if we didn't tell you that it had that label of being able to be used by someone with disabilities, you wouldn't know. And I like that. I think that's kind of nice, because people deserve to feel beautiful regardless of who they are. One of the most interesting things, which I didn't realize until I actually got into the scene of working with people with disabilities, was in particular working through the MS Society. So when I first created the product, I was really excited about taking it to people that we created it for. And the MS Society does an exhibition twice a year where they have loads and loads of people kind of come and exhibit their products. And we were the only product that wasn't kind of like medical looking. And the nicest thing was to have someone kind of come up and realize that, this is an essential for me too. And I'm so glad that this exists, because it's not something that I now have to rely on someone else to do for me. I can actually, bring that power of beauty back to myself. So I guess that was kind of one of the most heartwarming moments and moments of realization. Another thing that was quite interesting was someone once made a comment that, our campaign for the image didn't have a disabled person on it, but disabilities are invisible most of the time. You could walk past someone and they look just like me and you, and we don't even know it. So I thought that was kind of a gap in the market in terms of people understanding and the consumer understanding. And if there was anything that I could kind of say to the customer or the consumer, that's the everyday customer, is, disabilities can be invisible too. And everybody has the right to be beautiful. Everybody has the right to feel the way that they want to, and the best in their own skin. So there is kind of that judgment that kind of happens. And so I guess one of the boundaries that we're really trying to shift is that, what does a person with disabilities look like? And it's actually just, like me and you, normal.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that takes us to my next question, which is around, we talked about, I'm not sure you called out, we talked about how Tommy Hilfiger approaches inclusivity and adaptive fashion. So it, in a similar way, design is not an afterthought, and it doesn't, everything that they create, they don't really, it doesn't look medical or for someone with certain conditions. So with regards to making this empowering people through, whether that's clothing or beauty products or brushes, what role does design play into that? Is it very, very central to you? And how do you think brands should be, both creatives and brands and agencies should be approaching that with regards to the importance of design?
One, don't be tokenistic. I say this all the time because it drives me a little bit crazy, and I think we've seen it a lot with gender and racial diversity. When I started working with the trans community, they weren't considered a market or target market, but I feel like when people start to target that market in particular, they kind of miss the point a little bit. And then all of a sudden you saw a lot of other brands kind of creating, one brand created 46 shades of foundation. Another then started to say, we create 30 shades of foundation. So that became a USP. It became a marketing tool. The core driver was no longer actually authentic. It was about ticking boxes. And I think that's the one thing that really drives me a little bit crazy about the industry. People are not necessarily marketing opportunities. There has to be a sense of research and trial and error and actually testing things that really goes into play to get into being successful within these industries. And I feel like that's what the big guys kind of miss. The other thing as well is they kind of look at it from not a financial perspective. They overlook what the industry is actually worth. They think that, it's very niche, it's too niche, why should we bother including them? And in reality, it's it's a multi-million billion-dollar industry. So I wish a lot of companies kind of realize that. But most importantly, it's about testing it. I'm always worried about people doing it for the press or people doing it for PR. But marketing and designing and creating for different abilities is always going to be a very crucial point if you're able to do it correctly. And the value in that is definitely about being able to actually test it with your target market. So looking into making sure that you can actually achieve and approach the market needs and desires rather than just kind of pulling things out of thin air. So if I were to give anybody advice, it'd be like, ask a customer you're actually targeting, ask them what they think of it, test it out with them, see if it works, make changes to suit them because it's their needs, not yours.
Yeah, I think that's right. Designing with them, I think, is the key thing there, particularly in products. So, you know, we've talked about it in business and agencies and whatever, but I think it's the same point that we touched on earlier, which is whoever you're designing for, don't design for them, design with them, with their input, with their, you know, with their expertise. Ideally, employ them to do it with you because, you know, those people can work as well. So yeah, I totally buy into that. I think that's a big, you know, a must really. But I would also say, just funny you talk about MS. I was reading something the other day, and I think was it Selma Blair who recently, the actress, came out, was it the last Oscars or something? She'd come out saying that she has multiple sclerosis, and it took her to highlight, you know, with her platform and her reach, the fact that there weren't any canes. So she turned up to one of the awards ceremonies with a bespokely designed cane, which was awesome and brilliant, and went with her outfit. But she used her, I suppose, privilege and platform as an opportunity to talk about the fact that there weren't really any choices. So I think, you know, because there's such a massive chasm, if you like, in the disability realm, with people being able to design with or themselves, to then reaching that kind of mass stage, if you like, or mass market, I think you need to probably approach it from both ends. That would kind of be my input on that really, and trying to work out how you can talk about it on a much more a wider scale, as well as doing it from the roots up, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with that. I think, you know, it's also like when, you know, you've got luxury brands with diversity, and what they tend to find as a solution after they make a big mess is hire a diversity lead. But it's so much more bottom up, you know, hire diverse lead and you won't be in that problem anyway. So it's kind of like, absolutely agree, tackling things with both ends. Don't try and, you know, do something for people, do it with them, especially if, you know, it's uncharted territory or you're doing something, you know, for the first time. You know, it has to be right. And the other thing as well is so many disabilities are very different. And I think that was a really big challenge for me in particular when I was creating my products, because everybody has different abilities, even within the same disability or the same disease. It affects you in so many different ways. So really finding that happy medium to try and make it as universal as possible was one of the key kind of things that we looked into as well.
Awesome. So, Zach, Ryan, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think the co-creation is super important. It's actually pretty fundamental to design engineering. And before I went into the sort of fashion or wearable industry, I didn't realize that people didn't actually do it that way. So I just did it the way that I had been taught in a way. So we ran, I mean, when designing the product, I was always going out to parents, and because I'm not a parent myself and I don't have kids, and just doing different types of testing. So long-term, medium-term, short-term. Short-term just to get an idea of what they think about the aesthetics, long-term to see how it holds up over time. Then when we did the first batch, we actually did 100 beta test units where we sold 100 sets, but we vetted all the customers. So they had like an application form, and they had to say why they thought they should be able to purchase Petit Pli, one of the first 100. And if they sort of passed, then we'd send out the email to them to invite them to purchase. And After like 6-7 months of testing, they filled out feedback forms, which were around 45 minutes long. So we were able to get a really good understanding of how this was being used, where it was being used, and the sort of different approaches, because we opened it up to the whole world. So we had people from different cultures and different climates, and just getting their insights was super helpful. And that allowed us to design version 2, which we then gifted to them for free. Because the whole idea was we wanted to incentivize them to be as critical and honest as possible. So because they were co-creating that version 2, that worked really well. And I think it's just fundamental to going forward and creating good stuff, basically. If you want to create good stuff for people, then you have to really understand them.
I'd say that was the same for me, really, mainly because I create bespoke and made-to-measure suits. So when I'm designing something, I'll be sitting there with swatches and designs, and we'll be creating it together with the client, right? So one thing I realized is, yeah, no two bodies are the same. Like usually you would find complete discrepancy in like one person to the other. So say one tailored suit would not fit someone else if it's made specifically for that person. And that's something that I think for us as a brand was very important, to create pieces that, number one, there's no real wastage. There's not like, we're not creating a huge ready to wear collection and waiting for people to buy it. We're creating products that are locally sourced. We work with a lot of mills from Britain, a few in Europe as well. But creating products that will last a long time, are sustainable, and ultimately are made for a person, right? So that's been something that we've sort of carried from the bow tie to the different parts of the tailor wardrobe up until now.
Amazing. And then to wrap it up, what would you guys like to see? What type of product would you like to see created, or you to create, to address any gaps in the market, inclusivity or not? What do you think we should be looking at when it comes to designing for the future? I think this situation that we're at is especially helpful in making us think about that.
I think what I maybe flip the question, and what I don't want to see is the same stuff and unnecessarily being made if it's not fulfilling certain criteria or needs of people. So I would like to not see more unnecessary things being made, but yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I would be, as you know, as a parent that is willing to pay a little bit extra for something that isn't so I suppose not fit for purpose, ill-fitting or medical in the disability space. I will be absolutely looking for things that, whether they are cost effective or more expensive because of those things, but that actually do serve a purpose, but sort of break through in a way that I think disabled people deserve, which is more brands making clothes that are adaptive or more accessible to them, even just purchasing things on their website, stuff like that. I think I would just love to see a move to people kind of looking at unpacking how they could make, and in a lot of cases quite simple adaptations to products that already exist. I think that would be wonderful if people could look at that.
Amazing.
That's it.
And if I had to say something that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing after this, is just people slowing down. I think this time has really given us all a really great opportunity to reflect. And if we can kind of focus on being able to slow everything down and, really just kind of put some more meaning into things, that would be amazing. That's 8 p.m., isn't it? 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Tapping for the carrots. Zach, would you?
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with. I think part of there's beauty in this pandemic is everyone's taken a step back, and even sort of you've seen with Fashion Week, they've move to a digital platform out of necessity, but also it gives everyone a chance to really figure out what's needed rather than what's being put out there and churn for the mass market, right? I think there's hopefully going to be a change in people's mentality and, you know, creating products and consuming products in a more honest and more authentic way. And I hope that also brands will take that into account when they're creating marketing campaigns or, you know, hiring people and creating a culture and a workforce that really represents and is inclusive of the world that we live in, right?
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for joining us digitally for the first time. We're gonna get together once all of this is over to celebrate. And yeah, stay in touch. For everyone who is watching, please follow all of these amazing individuals and what they do, their businesses, their companies. If you have any questions, please let us know at Lone Design Club, and we are Interlaced, and we'll see you at the next event. We'll see if that will be digital or physical. Amanda and the team will update us, but that will be in June, where we'll be talking all about the future of retail and the evolution of the retail space.
Fantastic. I can't wait. This conversation will be recorded. It has been recorded. It'll be used as a podcast and will be available to view afterwards. So for anyone who can make it. Do you guys just want to go through and just to wrap up, say your company name and your Instagram handle, just so that people can kind of follow up for more if they'd like to after this? Start with Emma, work the way down the line.
Oh, damn it, top right. Yes, so I'm Emma Gardner, and you can find me on Instagram Emma_Gardner_Elvis or at ElvisComms.
Thank you. Ryan?
I am Ryan Mariasin, but you can follow Petit Please Work at petit.pli on Instagram.
Amazing, thank you. Zach?
Hi, I'm Zach Timol. You can find my personal Instagram at Zach Velsvoir, ZAKVELSVOIR, or the brand name, which is Velsvoir, VELSVOIR.
Thank you. And Trishna?
I'm Trishna Daswani, and you can find us on Instagram at Cole Creatives. That's spelled KOHLKREATIVES.
Amazing, thank you. And thanks everyone again. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Hopefully we'll be able to do this and meet up physically in the not too distant future. But
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Christina, for putting this all together.
No worries, my pleasure.
Thanks,
Have
guys.
a lovely evening, you all. Stay safe.
See you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.